it's so easy to get into habits, right? And habit also pertains to how you think, right? So if you're in the same surroundings every day, then you just start to accept it, right? And you don't think outside the box. So sometimes either an unfortunate event happens or a very lucky, fortunate event happens, and that makes you jump off one set of rails onto another set of rails potentially,
Yeah.
or imagine how your life could be. Usually, it's unfortunate versus fortunate because bad luck seems to happen more often than good luck. Good luck you have to work harder for. I've found anyway. But I like to move around a lot. We talked about this earlier, and I've never been more fulfilled as a result.
And I do think the movement is good advice. Like, if you are feeling stuck, if that negative thing does happen that completely rocks your world, which I do believe is happening more and more,
Yeah.
especially as people's long-running businesses. A lot of my clients have been in the business for more than 30 or 40 years. As those foundations get rocked, they are terrified about like this next step. And that's something I think we all happen to share right now, increasingly so.
Sure.
Your colleagues as well? Your friends?
Yeah. Look, I'm 55, so I got friends now who are empty nesters, and their kids go off to college, and they look at their spouse and say, "God, what do we get to talk about now?" Right? So that's a big shakeup. Or, they lose their job at this point in time. They have to go compete for a new one. That's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. But most of them, after a couple of months of being uncomfortable in that situation, figure out a new path and end up in a better place. I mean, I think human nature is we're naturally set up to be happy. Just like kids have a fight with another kid, they're naturally set up to be happy and make friends with that kid 20 minutes later. So I think anytime something unfortunate happens to you, there's always going to be a silver lining, and you're going to end up in a better place. Not always. Some people enter in depression, et cetera. But most of the time, change is good.
I recently saw a definition of transformation. And the definition was that something old needs to die, which was harsh for me
Yeah.
to hear, but true. Like a butterfly,
Yep.
something old has to die. For me, I've kind of been doing a lot of introspection over the last few years. I've spent the majority of my adult career in hospitality and the lodging and short-term rental industry. And I was kind of getting a little bit bored by it. And I kind of felt like I had explored all of the opportunities. Kind of felt like there was a ceiling, a limit that I kept bumping
Right.
my head up against. And when I took a little bit of space, and when I stepped back, and when I got great input from colleagues, and when I did some soul searching, I went to Israel and I had an incredible trip. At this particular moment in my own transformation, one of the wonderful silver linings in hindsight is that I wasn't leaving behind that whole world. It didn't actually die. It's just now part of the new.
Right.
And that was actually kind of comforting,
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always go back to it.
Right.
You can always go back to it. It's like, been there, done that. If I want to go back to that restaurant and eat that one entree, I know where the restaurant is, and I
Right.
know how to order it as long as they don't take it off the menu.
Right.
But I'm going to go try a new one.
Yeah. And I think that's the new kind of growth that I'm trying to get comfortable with. It's not like this or like this. It's like, maybe it's going to be like this.
Yeah.
Maybe it's going to be like this individually. For a business, maybe that throws a wrench in things, or is that something you embrace?
So it depends. Like if the business is performing well, most of the time you don't want to fuck with it. Sorry. You
Got
don't wanna-
children listening.
You don't want to. You don't want. You don't want to mess with it. But at the same time, the environment changes, so you don't want to bet everything on. You don't want to be a one-trick pony, right? So kind of like we tried lots of stuff. We even opened up a hotel here in South Beach, which went well for a while, and then it went really badly for a while. We're closing it down, but
And
you
just
always
so
gotta try
listeners
new
know,
stuff.
this was a new thing in the world of travel.
It was.
Can you just explain it briefly?
Yeah, we just thought the whole hotel experience was a little bit dated and needed some more technology. So we envisioned having, check-in, not at the front desk where you had to wait, but actually while you're in the taxi on the way over there, you could just check in from your phone, and we'll know exactly when you show up. You can use your phone to order stuff, to get into your room, all kinds of cool stuff. And it turns out that technology, the reason hotels are the way they are isn't because no one's thought of this before. It's not a technological issue. It's because humans are habitual and they like the check-in process. It's just, people want a room key, even if it's a little plastic thing, rather than using their cell phone. It takes time to change people's habits.
So that was a big experiment.
It's a big experiment. I mean, we opened 3 hotels and then we learned, okay, once the technology's out there, people aren't using it. They still want to text the front desk and ask for more pillows versus just using the kayak app to do it.
Right. That was a pretty potentially game-changing idea that in the end didn't work for you.
The timing wasn't right, is what I'd say. I think it's still going to go that direction, but it might take another 10 years. It's just like, on our open table business, the idea that people pick up the phone and call restaurants for reservations is just so archaic. It's so much better to use the open table app to do it, right? And then the restaurant knows who you are, knows what you've ordered in the past, knows, how to give you better service. And you can invite your friends and lots of goodness versus calling the restaurant. But 40% of all restaurant traffic is still walk-in and phone calls. So it takes time.
I just love the experimental nature of we're going to try something that will potentially change everything. And we're going to give it our best try, and we're going to reevaluate a couple years down the line.
Yeah. I mean, it was probably a $15 to $20 million experiment in terms of cash out the door. But you look at companies like Sonder, Selena, others. These were $1 billion experiments, and all that $1 billion is out the door. It's gone. Right. So we tried it. We learned quickly, and then we got out.
And that, in a nutshell, for me, is this iterative process of becoming visionary. Is having an idea that you really believe in, something that you feel, you have clarity, deep down in your heart, this is something that I think is really great. And you VCs, you may poo-poo it, but I am going to keep going and I'm going to do it and actually do it. Do a pilot or do a test or do 3 hotels and reevaluate. That, in a nutshell, for me, is vision.
Yeah. Well, the vision was, let's take technology and fix this problem. But you always have to have a plan B, and you always have to be receptive to what the market's telling you. And the market's telling us it's not ready yet.
Right.
It's not ready yet. And the Sonder CEO is a great guy and also a visionary. He went all in on this plan A, and they're going to go bankrupt.
Yeah.
And he went from having a couple $100 million on paper to unfortunately having nothing.
Right. I think in a way everybody has this in them, the ability to start thinking a little bit more personally, a little bit more originally, outside the box, outside of your job, outside of your existing bubble. And if nothing else, it injects some freaking fun into your life.
Yeah,
right?
For sure. Oh, no, it's like learning the hotel business from actual humans working there. I can tell you some great stories. I mean, one of them was we have these little TVs, flat screens on the wall. I think we bought them for $89, right? But if you unplug them from the wall, a message goes to our front desk, and we come up. We send someone to the room. So one morning, notice goes off, TV's off the wall. So we send someone to the front desk, they knock on the door. Door opens. There's a woman putting it into her suitcase. And everything else in the room has also been put in that suitcase. The towels, the pillows, the sheets, everything.
Whole operation.
A whole operation. You're like, oh God, I didn't think of this, in
my online business.
When I did the business plan, I didn't think about theft and fraud. Oh, and the best part was when we charged a credit card.
Of course.
Fraud.
Right.
Fraudulent card. It's just I'm going to stay in this room for free. I'm going to take everything, including this TV, and get out of here.
Hospitality, it is a people business. You got to be ready for the people.
Unbelievable.
To bring us back to where we started, I asked you to describe what visionary meant to you, and you said that you were not. Curious if in our conversation you've had any adjustments about that definition as it relates to you.
I don't think so. No. I wouldn't put visionary on my resume. I would put a leader, but I wouldn't put a visionary. I just because I have an appreciation for the importance of luck, and I just got lucky. I got lucky to have supportive teammates, very supportive investors, and then the timing was perfect. And that's luck. Yeah, I put myself in a position where I could maximize the chances of getting lucky, but it's luck.
Join our creative business community at HereGoesNothin.com.